On today's episode of Marketside Chats, we sit down with Mike Hostilo, a personal injury lawyer who oversees 12 firm locations in Georgia, South Carolina, and Alabama. We'll be discussing his outlook on work ethic, how he develops personal connections to clients, the untraditional routes he took to find success, and even a unique story about a 25-hour hostage situation he found himself in that made national news back in 2006. For our intro music today, we'll be using one of Mike's fun commercials that he uses to separate himself from the pack outside of the courtroom. Give it a listen.
To turn your wreck into a check is just a waste of his time. He'll be with you to the end, giving you peace of mind. If you got one call to make and you just don't know, call Hostilo in the hospital bed, cause you totaled your car. You're laying there with a broken leg and a fractured arm, and you ask around for help and they keep telling you no, call Hostilo.
Hi, everyone. We're very pleased to be joined by Mike Hostilo here today on the podcast. So, Mike, let's get things started. It's our understanding that you've been a practicing lawyer in Georgia for over 25 years now, correct?
Since 93, so that's almost, this is my 29th year, actually.
Wow, congrats. So what made you want to become a lawyer to begin with?
I was going to be a Marine like my father, but wasn't qualified physically or probably not intellectually. So I was a history major at the University of Georgia, so what the heck? Took a whack at law school. I went to a night law school because either couldn't get in a real good school or had to couldn't afford it. I didn't want to put myself in debt, so I went to a night law school in Atlanta.
Yeah, so what'd you do during the day to keep yourself afloat?
Yeah, I worked full-time during law school to pay for school, and I helped from health clubs to law firms to just various kind of odds and ends, but mostly worked at law firms during the day. It took 3.5 years to get through law school because I went full-time at night.
I saw your first law gig was with a Marine named George Zettler. I know that you also have a family background in the Marines. Did that influence you wanting to work with him, and did that change your work ethic at all?
Yes. Everybody in my family, almost everybody in my family, I had two uncles, my father and Mr. Zettler, who had a tie with my family through the Marine Corps, and that's how I got sort of introduced to them, to Mr. Zettler. So, yeah, George was a great influence on our life. My main conference room, my main office is named after him, and we have a portrait, and he after my father, was probably the most influential male figure in my life.
Yes, so I understand that you have a great connection to the United States Marine Corps. I do as well. My father, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather were all Marines. Are there any
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi. Are there any important life lessons that he instilled in you that you carry with you every day?
Yeah, absolutely. Just my father helped me develop habits that simplified my life and that were repeatable.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Can I use Marine language on this?
Yes,
on this?
Yes, of course.
Absolutely. Definitely. Yeah.
You know, the Marines are always like shower and shave. You know, I got to shower and shave and get out the door.
Yeah.
And so I have obviously altered that a little bit, and I try to work with younger people and talk to them about how important it is to develop habits that are repeatable. For example, in my middle age, I have basically tried to eliminate any color that's not going to match every day. So I generally only wear khaki, blue, and gray so I can get the hell out of the door as fast as possible.
Yeah.
You know, I keep my hygiene very neat and easy so I can, get down the road. And now my friends even give me a hard time. Do you guys remember the 70s TV show Kung Fu?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, with David Carradine, and I think they called him Grasshopper.
Yeah.
And do you remember? And then let's harken a little forward to the famous Pulp Fiction, the Tarantino movie, where Samuel L. Jackson and Travolta are sitting in the coffee shop, and Travolta asked Jackson what he was going to do, and he said, "I'm just going to wander the earth like Kung Fu."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure I'm butchering. Do you follow where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Great scene.
So I've gotten to a point now where I just carry this blue book bag with my Mike Hostilo logo on it. And my buddies joke me when we go on a golf trip or we do any traveling that Hoss, as everybody calls me, Hoss, you can you can just carry that book bag and go for a day or a week and wander the earth. So I want to say going back to my original foundation of my dad being a Marine and being simple, right? Everything, if you simplify things and therefore you can get more organized and then your life is less chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I think those kind of, my dad standing at my bedside every morning as a kid in his Marine uniform saying, "Get up, Mike Hostilo, you're going to do great things today." I mean, that's the voice in my head.
Yeah.
So
That's
sorry to
awesome.
go off on a tangent on that.
That's awesome.
Marine Corps is very important to me. Military, service, country, it's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of going off of that, one of the things that, we do at our firm, we're kind of focused around personal finance. And one of the things that, we agree on, very heavily is the fact that it's very important to have a structure to your day. And, one of the things that I think, helped me the best was just kind of writing down like a little to-do list.
I got one in my pocket right now, guys. And then even so I hear you.
Yeah. So like kind of going off of that, are there any other like little like quibs or tricks that you use to structure your day or?
Not really. I mean, I'm just the kind of guy that, doesn't need an alarm clock to get up. You guys will learn this in middle age, has a hard time sleeping more than about 6 hours. And, I try to minimize my caffeine intake because I'm already jacked up and amped on life. So that's it. Our mission statement of our business is twofold motto, and it's very simple. Be nice and do what you say you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And number two is really, really hard for most people.
Yeah.
Well, keep it simple. It's I don't know if you're basketball fans, but there's a famous coach by the name of John Wooden. It's arguably the greatest coach and teacher of all time, and he would say, "Inch by inch, life is a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard."
Yeah.
So I notice with a lot of young people, because we are so reliant on technology and so reliant on devices and so reliant on, certain things to navigate our world. I mean, I grew up in an era where we didn't have cell phones and we didn't have GPS and we didn't have the computer and we didn't have the internet. And even though those devices and that technology is wonderful, you still got to use your mind, and still got to. And when it's cluttered and when you're disorganized, it's hard to get stuff done. It's hard to get shit done.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of going back to your mission statement, be nice and do what you say you're going to do. Is there any like particular, moment or event that kind of instilled you to come up with that, or is it like driven from anywhere?
It takes a lot of effort. It takes more effort to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Okay. It really does. And nobody wants to be in conflict with anybody. And most of the time, anytime you have conflict with someone else, you generally can do some self-reflecting and go, there's never, we're very few in times in life 100% the victim of something.
Yeah.
So anytime you have a confrontation or an altercation or a relationship doesn't work out or a situation doesn't work out, even in law, it's supposed to be adversarial in nature. But I just have learned that, number one, how did I become successful? I guess I am successful after 29 years being in business and employing almost 100 people with 12 offices. And I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not the best looking guy. I'm not the hardest working guy. But I want to say that I'm the nicest guy in this business.
Mm-hmm.
I want to treat everybody, because again, I come from a working class background. I'm the first guy to get educated in my family. So human interaction and human connection and being able to just be kind is pretty easy to do if you think about it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. And
that's where it came from, because, I can be, early in my career when I thought I was all about that and all, before a couple life-changing events, I thought I was God's gift to everything. And then I really learned I was God's gift to nothing.
Yeah.
But myself, right? What I had inside of me and at the end of the day, kindness and trying to impact other people is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that sounds a little corny, but it just feels better to make somebody else's day or to be kind to them.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you come from a working class background. How does that affect you relating to your clients because you are in personal injury law?
It's very important because as we have grown our business and being able to have it grow, a lot of lawyers think the case is about their skill or themselves, where at the heart of it is the case is about the client and what the client is going through getting in a car accident. And when you really look at it, if you can't understand what a single mother goes through, or if you can't understand what a guy that works in construction goes through when he gets hit and he lives literally not paycheck to paycheck, he's living moment. Some of these folks live moment by moment.
Yeah.
Okay, and I've lived moment by moment. Okay, I went to night law school and lived on $217 a week for 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so I ate peanut butter and I got bread from a used store, and I drank free coffee at my law firm I worked for, and I went to a happy hour. The beers were $1, and they served hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah.
So I understand. I started my law firm out of a townhouse in Pooler, Georgia, with no employees, in a shitty ass PC that I probably didn't even know how to use.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's where when you achieve. And again, no one's crying for me, but what I'm saying is I appreciate the value of hard work, and I appreciate. And I also had a sabbatical in my early 40s where I could take some time away from law, went into another space that failed, but I sat in fast food restaurants in the Deep South and watched working class people come in to eat or just navigate the world, to walk into a convenience store, and you can see the struggle in their face.
Yeah.
You really can. The eyes will tell it all. And I have great empathy for that. I mean, and also when you don't have formal education, and when you don't, like my mom and dad don't have formal education, like we recently refinanced our house, and for a lot of people that's a real simple, that my interest rate's going to go from 7.2% to 2.3%, and because you're a veteran, you're going to get all these perks.
Yeah.
My parents, God love them, they're alive and healthy as ever, but that was very taxing experience for them, and I held their hand every step of the way. But at the end of the day, for people that are educated, the people that navigate that world, it's a very anxious and stressful thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's no different. I assume, like, you guys are, I assume you're all football fans.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Okay. So in my view, the hardest thing to do on the grand stage in sports is play quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Would you guys disagree with me?
No, absolutely not.
No.
Okay. So you talked about, this morning I was looking at these draft boards and all these guys that are going to be the next this, the next that. At the end of the day, there's only about 7 guys in the world that can play quarterback, exceptionally well.
Yeah.
But all of these kids were stars as middle school, high school, then at whatever respective college they went to. And then once they got to the NFL, the game just got so fast. And life is a little bit of a microcosm. NFL is a microcosm of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that goes back, again, to my Marine roots of being organized, simplified, being able to stay in front of things, right? Know what I got to do, keeping lists, keeping on top of things, cleaning up emails, returning deleting junk emails. And it just, because every day it just, there's a lot of super bright lawyers that can't run a business, can't be a great lawyer, but they know everything in that book they read.
Now, I'm wondering, do you think your empathy and ability to put yourself in the shoes of your clients is what led to you coming up with your policy to only get paid when you win a case? Because that's a policy that I definitely really respect.
Yeah, that's generally the industry standard. Guys, it's you can't really, again, think about it. Most of our clientele is, they get in a car accident. They didn't ask for it to happen.
Yeah.
And historically speaking, I have represented some white collar professionals or doctors or lawyers themselves, but they work for a very reasonable working class wage, and they get in a car accident, and then now they can't go to work, and they can't pay for daycare, and they can't do this, they can't do that. So they're not going to have the money for me to fight for them.
Yeah.
So the way the system has created itself, the person that hit them, which is the legal term called the tortfeasor, the at-fault party. That's why we all carry insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Because 99% of our cases now, we do not, we're not going after the individual that hits my client.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a very rewarding way to do things, and it's been I only done it exclusively about the last 15 years. I kind of did a little bit of we would call it down here in the South, a ham and egg lawyer, but in the last 15 years, I've narrowed my focus to personal injury, specifically auto accidents, and it's been an absolute joy and pleasure.
Yeah. Was there a specific case that made you want to make that switch, or just?
I like the business model, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I really do. I like the business model. It, other areas of law were very tied to court schedules and didn't allow a lot of flexibility. And I'm a golfer, so sometimes I get asked to go for a tee time, and then I court at 2:00, so I'd have to miss that tee time.
Yeah.
So personal injury law, the majority, the personal injury law car accident space, the majority of our cases are handled, outside of court.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a negotiation process between the insurance companies lawyers, and us. So it's a nice way, and the pay doesn't suck either.
Yeah. So one of the questions that I kind of had when you mentioned about your diligence and doing hard work and how important it is and how much appreciation you have for it. I was wondering if you ever kind of came to any of those crossroads yourself in your legal career, where either you were going up, someone you really respected, and it kind of like caused you to like pull an all-nighter, or like any significant legal project that you worked on that you devoted a lot of time to, but you felt that you did a great job with.
I wouldn't say there's one particular project, but I would say that at least twice a year we will have a client that'll touch my heart. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, all of them, every client, small case, fender bender to death case, they're all important to me.
Mm-hmm.
They're all, I will say that I had a case probably 13, 14 years ago where it originally started, where I represented one family member in a smaller car accident case, and then the older brother got killed in a fatality. Was a fatality in a car accident case, and that was probably the only time we went to a mediation, which is called where we tried to resolve it before court. And I physically broke down from looking at the photos and being with the family, but.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're all important, and they're all, I know that's cliche to say that, but they really are. They're all people, and they all have their sets of circumstances, and they all deserve exceptional representation.
Mike, I have a few friends going to law school next year, and do you have any advice for like these future lawyers about law school and the journey to becoming a lawyer?
Get a good job and don't put yourself in too much student loan debt.
Yeah.
All kidding aside, it's a fantastic education. I was just with a guy that's a lawyer by education that doesn't practice anymore, and we were both in our 50s, and we spoke about how important that education is. Just the way it makes you think. obviously I didn't get I would have probably liked to go on to business school. I didn't get that chance. I was a history major. I have a lot of respect for accountants. My CPA is great. But the legal education it probably made me a little bit more aware and a little bit more cautious of things, but I certainly got I look at things in a more holistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of going into it, I know that we had done some research, and you had mentioned this idea of conflict within the personal injury practice, and I know you had an encounter with a former client of yours that gained some national notoriety.
Yeah, it's in 1997, I want to say, back when I was still a general practice lawyer, ham and egg lawyer, as we say.
Yeah.
I was doing a fair bit of court-appointed work.
Okay.
And what that is people that are indigent, that cannot afford to hire their own criminal lawyer, the court will appoint a lawyer to represent them, and you get paid a very nominal fee.
Gotcha.
And on this particular occasion, this gentleman is, his name is Robbie Eugene Brower. I learned that he passed away in prison last year, but he had had a aggravated assault charge, and he was called a recidivist, which means you've had previous criminal convictions. And based on the evidence and based on the facts, we entered a negotiated plea with the district attorney's office, and I advised him to take a plea.
Mm-hmm.
When he was leaving court that day, he looked at me and said, when I get out of here, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't put anything together with it, but and I'd received some transmissions, I think via email in the early 2000s from him. Either he was in jail or gotten out of jail or whatever. But on Martin Luther King Day 2006, in my remote office of Statesboro, Georgia, that's where it all happened.
Yeah. And so at what point did you, eventually it became, a lot more serious when you made an entrance into your law office, correct?
Yeah, he came into my office. I was in a kind of, if you've ever spent any time in small southern towns, they're all built on a square with the courthouse being in the square.
Yeah.
And I had this kind of hallway style office with no windows and, a hall on one side and successive offices, a lobby, then 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 offices. And I was all the way in the back office, and I was helping out my partner that day cover some appointments because it was a holiday, and I had a morning scheduled. It was like 10 or 15 people to see because, again, back then we were doing all different kinds of work: bankruptcy, criminal defense,
yep,
divorces, personal injury. And he just stormed in there. I got there probably, 8:45 or so, and he just stormed in there like 9:15, and he had both of my receptionists kind of held, and he comes in with like army fatigues on, and they're crying and panicking, and I look up and I said, "What the heck's going on?" He said, "Mike Hostilo, today is the day you're going to meet your maker."
Yeah.
Something to that effect. And I said, "Who are you?" And as soon as he said, "Robbie Eugene Brower, you ruined my life," whatever. And then I was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah. So in that moment, I know you mentioned your mission statement before. I'm going to mention it again. It was to be nice and to do what you're going to say you're going to do.
Be nice and do what you say you're going to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So like in that moment, and when he came in, did you kind of feel like any of that mission statement and how you were going to address the situation as it presented itself?
Something, at that moment in time, I'm just like, I didn't know what to do. But I want to say, let's go back to, not that I've ever been encountered with that kind of threat or danger in my life. Let's go back to that NFL quarterback analogy. All of a sudden, everything got real fast.
Yeah.
And how I was going to handle the next whatever moment is going to determine if I'm going to die or not.
Yeah.
Because if I would have lost my temper and snapped, I guarantee you he would have killed me that day.
Yeah.
So I just tried to figure out with my, my salesmanship skills, how in the hell can I get me and my girls in my office out of this building alive?
So I saw on your firm's website that you have a dad with a military background and then a mom who's actually a Hiroshima survivor. Do you think growing up in just a survivor household helped you think tactically during this life-threatening situation?
All I'll say is this, guys. My dad's a pretty badass dude, even at almost 83. And after 2 tours in Vietnam and a decorated 30-year Marine Corps career, my mom's the tough person in the house.
Yeah.
Okay. She's Japanese, and I've only seen her cry when her parents died and when my father retired from the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
When my daughter was born. Okay, so those are the examples. I'll give you one story that shows you the toughness of my mother. In 1987, when I was at the University of Georgia, my father had a stroke, and I frantically drove down to the Savannah, Georgia hospital that he was at, and I remember my mom standing 5 foot tall, all 100 pounds of her, standing with her arms in front of her at attention, essentially, and I'm running, crying, about to see her, frantically wondering if my dad's okay. And I get there, and my mom grabs my wrist firmly, looks me in the eye, and says, "Get yourself together. He's always been there for us. It's time to be there for him."
Wow.
So to give you some sort of context, yes, my parents are tough-ass people. And so that I'm not trying to take credit or be braggadocious about that situation. Yeah, I was scared shitless. Absolutely, I was.
Yeah.
It was the most horrific moment of my life.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't really think. All I thought about is, what am I going to? I did stay calm. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
And that throughout the entire thing, I stayed calm.
It sounds like she really struck a chord with you in learning to kind of offer yourself to others when others are in need.
Yeah, because I mean, we also, not to go into that. I mean, when my father got taken to Vietnam and I was a child, my mother came back from Japan to go live in Savannah, Georgia with my grandparents, and we were not that far removed from Hiroshima in World War II, guys. Right? So
Wow.
I'm a multiracial kid
Mm-hmm.
who had blonde hair as a 2-year-old, and my mom's carrying me through San Francisco Airport, and American spitting on her.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
So I get, we've been, again, nobody's feeling so. I've got the greatest parents in the world. We've got the greatest life ever, but yeah, we're tough. I mean, we're tough ass people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that you've definitely learned how to negotiate tough over the years as a lawyer. So, how did those experiences play a role, in these pivotal moments in your life?
Yeah, just the ability to understand working class people and people that go through adversity.
Yeah.
That's probably the greatest gift I had. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I had that. If I didn't go to some Ivy League educated law school or didn't have law review credentials or summa cum laude or whatever, it didn't really matter, because at the end of the day, what we do today is very little about law. It has a lot to do about customer service.
Yeah.
And people and communication. And think about it, a lot of millennials, I assume all of you guys are millennials, right?
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of millennials, because of technology, because of devices, because of social media, don't really know how to engage and have interactions face-to-face with human beings, or even talk on a telephone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because again, we do a lot of our business over the telephone, but it's not a text message. It's not an email. It is an actual conversation. Like, "Hello, Miss Jones. How are you? This is Mike."
Yeah.
And so I just think that being a common guy, coming from a working class background, having to work for everything, scrap to fight for everything I had, then be able to represent the same kind of people gives me a built-in advantage.
Yeah. So kind of going into that, it kind of just sounds like you got, a good sense of, learning how to read people, and being able to relate to people. How would you say that skill, presented itself, in the situation with, Robbie Brower?
Well, I fashion myself as a exceptional poker player and blackjack player, which haha I'm not. But I knew that when we got down and dirty, initially he said when he initially said today's you're going to meet your maker, and he said get on your knees and put your hands behind your head and get on the floor and face the wall. I thought he's going to. I'm like, I'm 40 years old and I'm going to go down like this. He's going to put a bullet in my head.
Yeah.
Come to find out, he a bullet. He had a homemade bomb. He tied me up with duct tape to a rolling office chair. And as we spent that 25 plus hours together, I could tell, and I got calmer in the moment, just trying to figure out how in the hell I could survive. I eventually talked him into letting the two girls go.
Yeah.
And then once he turned on my lobby TV and realized that the media had discovered that he had done it.
Yeah.
And then quickly outside, you could hear the helicopters and the FBI or the police with a I don't know what you call it, a megaphone thing. Yeah. And that's when he started to shit his pants. Mm-hmm. Did you really think you were going to hold a lawyer hostage in a small country, Georgia town, and no one not notice? Yeah. On MLK Day when I think they suspended the parade. Yeah. And that's when I realized he was probably more scared than I was. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, I got to just stay calm because he was irrational and he was crazy. Yeah. So I've got to stay calm to be able to navigate this situation, to plan when I am going to get out of it. And so you guys can tell I'm not a shy person. So I just started peppering him with questions. Mm-hmm. Robbie, what are you trying to achieve here, man? What are we going to do? What can I'm not your enemy. I'm here to help you. What can I do for you? Yeah. And, it was an interesting experience, but I don't know if you guys read. I did try to escape one time during the night.
Really? How did that go?
Yeah, very, very unsuccessful. He had gotten comfortable with me, and we ordered in food. The hostage negotiator ran Subway in, so he let me free my hands to eat. And then when he'd take me back, he didn't do a very good job. And so I was like, I can either do one of two things. I can try to go out. I can try to jump through the front window, but then the snipers will probably shoot me. Or I can try to run out the back door. So yeah. I went for the latter option. I tried to run out the back door, and he had his wife with him, and I couldn't get the door closed. They kicked the door down. They both beat the crap out of me. I fought with him. They drew a knife on me, and then he tied me back up.
Yeah. From that point, where is this in the timeline?
I would say this is somewhere between 11 p.m. to, I was in there 9 o'clock a.m. on Monday, the 16th of January, 2006, until this is probably 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. that night. Obviously, I wasn't keeping track of time, and I didn't have any, the FBI or whomever had turned our cell phones off. Yeah. I guess and so we didn't have any access to any devices. Nobody knew what time it was. And they had run a hostage negotiator phone out for us to talk with. And then so after that, he tied me up or taped me up, threw me in a middle office on the floor, face down with my hands behind my back. And then he kept coming back and screaming at me. Why did you do that, man? Why did you do it? What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Because we had kind of bonded at that point, right? Yeah. And then he just kept coming back and back. And then I said to him finally again, I persuaded him to talk to me. And then I said, Robbie, what, they don't care about me. They don't care about you. And they certainly don't care about me either. if we don't do something quick, they're just going to come in here and tear gas us and shoot us up. They don't really care about us. They just don't. They want to make sure that you don't hurt anybody else outside. So I said, you better help. You better work with me because I'm your only hope of getting the hell out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So then we sit up. I've convinced them now we become allies. So I start drafting these crazy motions and documents to file with the court to get an emergency hearing.
What kind of motions was he asking for?
Motion for immediate hearing to, get out of jail. Motion, all justice hearings, all these kind of hearings.
Yeah.
And so we start drafting them up, and then I'm like, finally, he decides that he's going to surrender. We've shuttled these documents out, and he's decided, hey, if they're going to get me immediately a hearing in court, then I'll walk out. So we attempt, once we shuttle these documents out, Lovett Bennett, who was my next door neighbor in that town as a lawyer, his law office is right next door, who's now a judge in that county, served as sort of like the liaison. He took over for the hostage negotiator. He was marvelous and probably saved my life.
Yeah.
So when we decide to walk out there, I said, listen, we're going to walk out to surrender to get justice, quote, and we're going to walk out there, don't shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So we walk out there. I've got my hands, I'm in the middle. I'm holding Connie Brower's hand in one hand and Robbie's in the other, and we got our hands up in the air.
Yeah.
So we walk out there, and as soon as we walk out there, I can see all the snipers on top of the buildings, it's hiding behind cars, and Robbie freaks out.
Yeah.
So we get about 8 steps out, and then he's like, you can hear him panicking. He starts mumbling. And I said, Robbie, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And then he pulls, he gets behind me, wraps his arm around my neck, and tries to retrieve us back into the building.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when they took they obviously weren't very good snipers because they took a couple shots at us and hit nobody.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So then we go back in the building. I'm like, damn, I'm done, man. There's no way I'm getting out of this place.
Yeah.
So again, so then he has me swallow. I don't know. I can't recall. He had me swallow some keys because they were symbolic of him getting evicted from properties that he alleged I caused him because he was a felon. He couldn't get a job.
Mm-hmm.
Those weren't the tastiest things to scarf down.
Yeah.
And then finally, we're just exhausted. We've been there 20 plus hours. I said, Robbie, let's do this. I said, let's flip a coin and, tails we stay here when we fight, then heads we surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at his wife, and amazingly, we flipped a coin, and it was heads. And the next thing you know, we're walking out of there. It's probably 9 or 10 o'clock the next morning.
Yeah.
And because he believes he's going to get justice and immediately see a judge, which is, we all know that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
So we walk out, we surrendered. Lovett Bennett and the cops come out. They greet us in the middle of the square. They take them. They grab me. They escort me off. And I'm just sort of caught. I was fine. I was fairly calm. I was on adrenaline. And then they put me in a police car and they took me to the GBI office. And I came around the corner and I saw my father and about 20 of my friends. And when I saw my father, that's when I lost it.
Yeah.
And I had learned that my father kept on trying to, say that he would go, obviously we'd all do this for our family, that he would sacrifice, let me go in there and die, let me go in for my son.
Yeah.
And that's it, guys. I mean, that's the story. It's forever. It's the worst thing that happened to me, but it's the best thing that's happened to me all at once.
Yeah. Coming out of that, I'm sure a lot of people would just step away. But what kept you going as a lawyer?
I took 14 months off.
Yeah.
I was already at the time of the hostage situation, I was already going to go into the hamburger business, which was a miserable failure after the fact. But I was going to try to be a businessman, right? I was extremely, before pre-hostage, I was extremely arrogant. I was extremely self-important. I was just all around probably an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And that incident, I stepped away. I did the hamburger venture. I learned a lot. It's transferred over into the business I'm doing now, my practice now.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got back, I had an opportunity to get back into the law, specifically personal injury. And when I sat down with my parents, and they did it was a magazine, a local Savannah magazine wrote an article, and I talked to them about it. This is probably 10 years ago. And my parents succinctly said, if you're going to do it for the right reason.
Yeah.
Don't do it for the glamour of being a lawyer, or the money, or the, just the fame. And there really wasn't fame, but, just to the common person like my parents, being a lawyer is a big deal. And they had sacrificed, and I had sacrificed, and I had worked hard. So, yeah, I just went back in. I started, I was held hostage in January of 2006, and in February of 2007, again, we started this practice out of a townhouse in a little town called Pooler, Georgia, outside Savannah, with 0 employees.
Mm-hmm.
And now we got 12 offices and 90 employees and 20 lawyers, and handle about 5,000 plus cases a year, and we're thrilled to death. And we love it, and we enjoy every moment of it. And it's struggle, and it's challenge. And going back to that original conversation about the marine habits and the Japanese habits of being organized and having structure and simplifying, and that's how it allows us to scale.
Yeah.
And we've copied, ironically, I won't give free dibs to them, but we've copied our business model after a prominent Southeastern-based fast food chain. I know that sounds crazy, but
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, process systems, procedures, be nice, do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
It's all kind of what we're built on. And because there's a lot of great lawyers, there's a lot of great law firms, but we're going to outwork you. We're going to out-customer you.
Yeah.
We're going to treat you like a VIP.
Mm-hmm. So I saw in a past interview that you did that you mentioned wanting to have a conversation with Brower in jail. What are some questions that you'd ask him if you had the chance, and what would you hope to learn from this conversation?
I would have asked him, man, I'm sorry if I in any way felt like I didn't give you 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have to really, really, really be in a deep place to resort to that kind of what you perceived was justice.
Yeah.
And that's really, I would just want to look at him man to man, and that happened. There've been two great events in my life:
Mm-hmm.
being held hostage and having a child.
Yeah.
And he would send me postcards from prison on Father's Day because he was a father. He had a daughter, and I now have a daughter. And I just would want to sit down with him. I never got the opportunity, and when I got notified that he had passed away in prison, I was going to do it. I was going to do it on the 15th year anniversary, and my family did not want me to.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to just look at him man to man in the eye and say, man, if I have done anything to you to cause you to this kind of anguish or this kind of desperation, I apologize. And I don't think I did, but
Mm-hmm.
but also if there was any way I could have helped him as he went through his second chapter of life, which is probably would have been incarceration for the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that would have been it. I didn't get that chance.
Yeah. So, one of the things that you kind of mentioned that I think our listeners would have some interest in is the hamburger venture that you mentioned. Do you kind of want to maybe, give us a little pitch on what that was and maybe some, important takeaways that you got from it and how it, paralleled into the law field? It
goes exactly. That's a great question. It goes. I got involved with some lawyers and some finance guys to buy a Southeastern-based hamburger chain, and the product was fantastic, okay? But the menu was too diverse.
Yeah.
Okay? And at the same time, there was a Mid-Atlantic hamburger chain that has peanut shells on their floors. Now, that's all I'll say. It was emerging about the same time as we did.
Yeah.
And the reason they kicked our ass is because everything was simple. They had like 3 items on the menu.
Yeah.
Okay? And they had a process, and they had a system, and they were able to create scale.
Yeah.
And we were not.
Mm-hmm.
We had chili dogs and ice cream and chicken sandwiches and no, you're a hamburger restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the same thing with like my business currently. We are a car wreck lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, we are personal injury lawyers, but at the heart and foundation of what we are car wreck lawyers.
Yeah.
That's where we try to profess that we are experts in automobile collision cases. And so, yeah, that goes back. So again, think about all that we've talked about in this hour. We've talked about simplification, good habits, my military and Japanese upbringing of being organized, making lists, being disciplined. That transfers not only to you guys' life, my life, but my business.
Yeah.
And a lot of the great businesses are able to do things in scale, in mass produce it, mass quantify it by being simplified and organized.
Yeah.
And saying my pleasure at the end.
Yeah.
I'll give you a free little pitch on the company that we're modeling our business after.
And for a lot of people that listen to our podcast, they're aspiring entrepreneurs, and they get devoted to projects and might be running a business, but it's not profitable, and they get too attached and they don't know when to cut the ties and maybe move on to something else, kind of like you did. Do you maybe want to talk about that kind of deliberation you dealt with? I'm sure you did. Or
oh well, I was in the hamburger piece. I was an investor, and I was going to become a franchisee.
Yeah.
And we just, we had a larger partner that was a private equity firm.
Yep.
And, they sort of, in that structure, they sort of decide who gets what when.
Yeah.
Because that, who puts in the most gets to say the most. And we made a lot of bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have area development agreements with called area development agreements with our franchisees. So one guy, one guy could open on one street, and then 5 blocks over, another guy could open, and it just didn't create that economy of scale that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And the menu being too diverse, and the vision not being clearly defined. I mean, it's no different than, your any business. If it's a one restaurant bistro or a 200 unit hamburger chain,
yeah,
you've got to have vision.
Yeah,
you've got to have a mission. You've got to have values. You've got to have core values that what you're willing to do and how you're willing to do it.
Yeah. So Mike, we know you're a very busy man. So we're gonna let you get going. But I do just kind of have one last question for you.
Yes, sir.
Here we are in 2021. We're in this COVID-19 pandemic. How has that affected law firms in general and your firm specifically? Are you able to build those connections that you take a lot of pride in over things like Zoom or the phone?
Here's one of the greatest. That's a great question. Obviously, traffic has been affected because there's less cars on the road. People are working remote. Kids aren't going to school. Activities are curtailed.
Mm-hmm.
Bars and restaurants have limited capacities or access or hours. So obviously traffic's down, and we were lucky last year only to be down about 16-17% for the year, which is great.
Yep.
And what is the new normal? That's the new term we use in COVID, right? The new normal.
Mm-hmm.
But we have been able, a famous Marine saying is adapt, overcome, and improvise.
Yeah.
Okay. And what we've been able to do that is we've found that some of our folks are very productive working remote, some not so much. And that people really value that we care about the culture of our law firm and the people of our law firm, and that being a mother is more important, or being a father is more important than working for Mike Hostilo, right? And that we can give them flexibility and technology, and being able to adapt using technology makes, again, that scale important. So we have certain folks on our team that in the past could only handle 100 files at a time, but because of the latest technology, the latest efficiencies, the better processes, they can now hire 150. Mm-hmm. And then what does that do for our business? We don't have to hire another person. We just give that person a raise.
Yeah.
And they're working the same amount of time more efficiently on 150 files when in the past they were with only 100.
Yeah.
And then we're able to, using Zoom, using FaceTime, using QR codes. We use QR codes now for advertising.
Yeah.
So you can save my telephone number, my contact information,
mm-hmm.
or we can do contactless representation, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, 15 years ago when I started, I had to go chase people down and use fax machines with that crinkly paper, right?
Yeah.
And our business is forever changed. We down here in the South, we're probably 75 to 80% normal pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hope we all get normal real soon and everybody stays healthy. But we have adapted and overcame and improvised, and we're going to be stronger and better. We can do more with less, and it's been we didn't lay a single person off during COVID. I'm very proud of that.
That's awesome. And I think that leaves a great place to leave it. But Mike, if God forbid any of our listeners get into any sort of car accident, where could they find you?
MikeHostilowLawFirm.com is our website. This
mm-hmm.
is my natural pitch, guys. This is my TV voice.
Yeah.
MikeHostilowLawFirm.com. 844-GET-MIKE is our toll-free number, and we can help you all over America.
Awesome.
So you can call us, go to our website, go to Instagram, Facebook. We're on all of those platforms, and we're here to help. Call, say hello, and like I said, gentlemen, Jack, Cord, Rob, Hunter, I can't thank you guys for your time. I know Jack and I have met face to face, and I hope to meet you guys someday. And if you ever make it to South Carolina, Georgia area, Savannah area, hit me up. So I appreciate your time today, guys, and God bless and stay safe, please.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for giving us some time.
Bye-bye.